Hello everyone, welcome to the F1 Corner. Formula One preseason testing is over in Barcelona. All the teams did a lot of laps, everyone ran a lot. All the teams have different results. So what is the verdict? Which team is at the top? Which is at the bottom? Do we have some surprise this year? Let's start with Williams. Williams are light years away from where they were last year at this same point. They were the first on track. They ran many laps with Nicolas Latifi and George Russell. So they are definitely in a better position than they were last year. They had a few issues, mostly with the power unit, some unreliability. So we'll have to see, is this a year where Williams will have a good car to compete, but will the power unit let them down? We'll come back to the power unit issue later with the mother team, Mercedes. But from what we can see, their times are not so bad. They might be able to fight for place maybe at the bottom of the midfield. Nicolas Latifi is learning the car. George Russell is also as at his second year. So we'll see. According to George Russell, everything about the car is better than it was last year. So we could have a few good surprises from Williams. We'll have to see in Melbourne, of course, to confirm it. But for them, this is an important year. It's about pride. It's about showing that they are still worth being in Formula One. We know they've had a few very bad years, and just 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they were fighting for pole and podiums. So they know what it takes to be at the top. So yeah, we'll see for Williams, but it's promising, good testing, and we'll find out more soon. On to Haas. The Haas team, it's tough to say where they stand. They did not have reliability issues, but they did miss part of the testing with Magnussen and Grosjean both crashing the car during week 1. Week 2, a few issues here and there, but nothing major. They were able to do some good runs. But again, we don't know where they stand really. They believe they have a better understanding of the car this year than they had last year, so hopefully they won't qualify 6th and finish last in the standing. But it's also unknown for everyone. Haas is one of those teams that sometimes in testing showed really bad results, but then arrive in Melbourne and they get 5th place. So yeah, I don't expect them to be top of the midfield. These teams, we'll talk about them shortly. But I believe if they did a good job and that their Ferrari power unit is good and reliable, we'll talk about that also later, they could be fighting for 6th maybe. And for Haas, I believe the most important thing this year is to be consistent above anything else. It's not about finishing 2nd or finishing 9th or finishing 4th. It's about being consistent, not show great result in quali and extremely poor result in the race, or invertedly being bad in quali and suddenly in the race everything unfolds. They have to be consistent across the board. Otherwise, this could be the start of putting back in question the involvement of Haas in Formula One. So we'll see again in 2 weeks. But yeah, Haas good testing in general, impeded by driver's error. But I believe both drivers are eager to really race and show what this car can do. Alfa Romeo with Kimi Raikkonen and Giovinazzi really have no idea where they stand. They did their program, they had no notable issues. Kimi Raikkonen ran a lot of laps, so did Giovinazzi. They could be fighting maybe for bottom of midfield, like seventh, eighth, or they could be maybe higher, but I doubt that. We did not hear much from Raikkonen. We heard more from Giovinazzi, who seems to be pleased. He will also, Antonio Giovinazzi, need to keep showing the same level as he had at the end of last season. Sorry. We know he had a bad start of 2019, but then at the end of the season, he really pulled his thing together and was able to challenge Kimi Raikkonen. So this is an important year for Giovinazzi and for Sauber. They want to show that they are not just a baby Ferrari. But for Giovinazzi, it is important because he might be in contention for a seat at Ferrari. We don't know. He's in the Ferrari lineup. They put him in Alfa Romeo. So he needs to show good progress again this year. Raikkonen, the oldest driver on the grid, potentially his last season in Formula One. We know he's enjoying being with the team. He's enjoying the battles he got. But again, he's not young. He's probably starting to get a bit slower than he might have been in the past. So we'll see. But yeah, Alfa Romeo, nothing very special. Good testing. Did what they had to do. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Now on to ex-Toro Rosso, Alpha Tauri. Again, also for them, it's nothing to discuss much about. They did what they had to do, no big issues with the car. Basically, they have a lot of the 2019 Red Bull technology. They ran a lot of laps. Pierre Gasly, Daniel Kvyat, both at their place in this team. We all thought that Gasly, after being thrown out of Red Bull, would be completely shattered and that he would maybe not deliver what he should have with Toro Rosso. But no, it seems that he's doing a good job. Kvyat coming back from kind of nowhere with the Red Bull family, also showing promising results, even though I don't expect them to see either of them at Red Bull. It is important for them to show that the new Alpha Tauri branded team is respectable, because now they're not just running under the Red Bull flag, but also they're promoting a brand, the AlphaTauri fashion brand. So if they cannot deliver a result, it will not be good marketing for the brand. But yeah, they are two good drivers. The team is somewhere in the midfield, could be more toward the top or in the middle. Again, we don't know. The times in testing are not really important or indicative of what is going on. So we'll have to see again. But yeah, they should probably put a good midfield fight. Racing Point. Now, these guys needs to be checked this year. They look very, very fast. Depending on who you ask in the paddock, someone say that they could be in the top three, fighting with the top three. Others says that they will just be below the top three, but light years ahead of the likes of McLaren and Renault. So they have to be checked. Called the pink Mercedes because they seem to have copied a lot of the 2019 Mercedes design. This again did bring a bit of controversy, but also depending who you ask. The likes of Renault, Williams, McLaren, who build their own car, do not like it so much. But someone like Günther Steiner, the director of the Haas team, will tell you that Formula One is a business, so anyone is free to run their business any way they like. And if the teams are close, if there's fights among the teams on the track, that's what's important. We want to see action. We don't want to see all the teams 2 seconds away from each other and not fighting. The Racing Point, like I said, is to be checked. Even when they revealed the car, they said that they expect both drivers to be on the podium this year. Sergio Perez could hardly contain his smile when talking about the car. He seems really, really thrilled, and we know what Perez can do. 8 podiums in Formula One with teams that should never have been on the podiums. So he knows how to make the best of the opportunities that are given to him. Really look at Racing Point. They could even be ahead of Ferrari, which we will talk about real soon. So, on to the next team. McLaren. Nobody knows what's going on with McLaren. The previous year, they had very bad testing and they were doing the headlines. This year, they literally went under the radar. Carlos Sainz and Norris seems to think they have a good car. They are also both good drivers. But again, nothing significant to talk about McLaren. They did their program, they ran and ran and ran. No big issues as far as we know. So we'll have to see. We expect them to be in the fight for 4th and 5th. After a very big comeback last year, they need to show that it was not just a fluke, that they are actually making progress. So we'll see. Sorry. Renault. Definitely unsure what's going on with Renault. Again, depending on who you ask, they could be fighting for 4th, 5th, but some see them as far as 7th and 8th. The power unit is probably not the biggest issue at this point. It just seemed that during testing in racing pace, they were not really there. Even though on the last day, Ricciardo did quite a good lap to show what the car could do. We don't know where they are, but yeah, first week of testing, the driver seems to be a bit down, unsure about the car. We don't know much more this week, so we'll have to see in 2 weeks in Australia. But considering that Racing Point looked very strong, that McLaren for sure tried to make progress and probably did, and that even the AlphaTauri team has 5th place initiative that they want to fight for 5th. Renault needs to pull it together and show that they are where they need to be. We know that they don't have the biggest budget on the grid, so they need to make the best of it. But yeah, the testing was not super conclusive as far as we can tell. So we'll see. And yeah, it will be very interesting to watch. Now, the three big team, the big trio. Let me drink. Starting with Red Bull. Red Bull seems to be very close to Mercedes this year. They could be their main contenders for the championship. They ran well. They had no big engine issue as far as we know, no reliability issue. The only thing is that the car seems to be a bit unstable in high-speed corner. We could see the car a bit skirming when the Verstappen and Albon were coming out of high-speed corners. So is it just because they were pushing the limit, like they said during the interviews? I kind of doubt it. We saw it quite a bit. So it will be interesting to see. But yeah, if the car has too much front downforce and not enough in the back, that could be a problem, especially on high-speed circuits, like, in places like Montreal or even Melbourne. You need your back to be stable because you arrive at high speed in chicanes and corners, and you need the back to follow you. You don't want to spin. But in terms of general pace, in terms of even of speed, Red Bull really seems to be there, and they could be one of the team to create a big surprise this year. They could be in the fight with Mercedes. We'll see. Verstappen seems confident. Alex Albon also will be eager to get his first podium this year after having one kind of stolen in a fight with Hamilton previously last year. So we'll see. I predict that this year Albon will get his first victory in Formula 1. By the way, watch my prediction video that's coming soon. And yeah, check Red Bull. Ferrari. Let's start with a controversy and link it to Ferrari's result during testing. 10 minutes before the end of the testing, the FIA issued a press release that they were done with the investigation of the Ferrari power unit, and that they came to a settlement with Ferrari regarding the way they would measure fuel flow, oil flow, and other things in the engine, and that it will serve purpose also to monitor all the teams. But what does this mean? This statement was issued 10 minutes before the end of testing, so there was no one from the FIA around to answer questions, no one from Ferrari to answer questions. The interview with Mattia Binotto happened 2 hours previously, or at 2 in the afternoon, something like that. So he probably already knew what was coming, but then managed to avoid questions about that. And even all the other teams, all the other principals, they would want to know what is going on. But now we are shut. Everything is shut down, and we will be in the dark until Australia in 2 weeks. And it will be a very hot topic. We know that last year Ferrari power unit was very powerful. It was the best engine of the grid. But some teams suspected that they were playing with the fuel flow and the oil flow in the engine because the sensors that check to be sure that the flow is on par with the rules, usually works at intervals. And there were rumors that Ferrari was monitoring this and that during those intervals, they were, when the sensor was not working, quotes, they were injecting more fuel and oil into the engine than they were supposed to. But we don't know. Everything they said that the settlement will be kept. The agreement that the FIA came on with Ferrari will, stay private, so you won't know what's happening. But this could also explain why Ferrari's testing is so disappointing. If they had a good power unit by cheating or exploiting the rules, and that this year they can't, they probably took a step back compared to last year. They don't have any reliability issues, but in terms of general pace, when Mattia Binotto was asked what you need to improve of the car, what you need to work on, what were his concerns, he talked about the engines, about downforce, about the speed. The way he talked about it, you could say that the car in general, the Ferrari in general for 2020 is not really good. He stated that the pace we saw on track during the testing was the actual pace of the Ferrari. Some really seems to think that they were sandbagging a lot, because last year they showed their card early on during testing and had a disappointing 2019 season. But this year, are they really showing everything? If they did, that would be very disappointing. When I said earlier that the Racing Point could maybe be in the fight with Ferrari, we saw this week the times from Perez and Stroll in racing pace being close to the one from Vettel and Leclerc, and sometimes not even on the same compound. Sometimes Ferrari had a better tire compound than the Racing Point, and the Racing Point was only a few tenths behind. So that will be very intriguing to watch. Is Ferrari really on their back foot? Some will say that this year they might be the fourth team. The team principal seems to think that they are indeed behind the Red Bull. Will they go back as far as being behind Racing Point or McLaren or Renault? We don't know. And for Vettel, this is an important year, considering that if the car is not to his liking, if he cannot perform, you will probably step down from Ferrari, and Ferrari will not renew his contract either. We know that Vettel looked at Red Bull and was told a big no by Christian Horner. Oops. We'll see. But yeah, Ferrari on the back foot going into Melbourne. And yeah, we'll see. And now on to Mercedes. Again this year, they seem to be the team on top, the team that will surprise everyone, the team that will probably win everything. But they have power units issues. All throughout testing, their sister team Williams and the main team Mercedes had issues with power unit reliability, engine reliability. They had to send a lot of them back to the factory for investigation. Could this be their Achilles heel this year? What if Mercedes is in the fight, but they have reliability issues? This could open the door for a Red Bull, a Ferrari, a Racing Point to be on the top step of the podium, to be fighting for more victories this year, to give us a very good fight. This is something that we'll need to check. Also with their DAS system, the DAS, dual axis steering. Will this prove to be a significant factor in their pace? Interesting fact, by the way, is that even Ferrari considered doing something like the DAS, but never went as far as asking the FIA if this was legal. And that's the extra step that Mercedes took before implementing it. Good things to look forward from Mercedes. They had the fastest time of both week of testing, but is the only one actually that went into the 1:15 during this whole testing period. No other team has went below 1:16. So are they just miles ahead of everyone, or will they be more in the pack, and were they just doing a very big glory run at that time? We'll see. Again, reliability will be an issue, maybe, but Racing Point did not show that many problems with their engine, so that's a good thing. We know that Racing Point is a Mercedes engine-driven team, so be sure to check that. I predict that Mercedes will be on top. That's really where they look like they are. And who will fight with them for second? Red Bull definitely is a serious contender this year. Apart from a very, it seems to be a capricious car. We'll see again when they come into Melbourne. We know that already the car that's going to be in Australia will probably not be the same as the one we saw during the last 2 weeks. There will be some improvements. So Mercedes, Red Bull, third. Anyone's guess? Ferraris or Racing Point, maybe. It will be interesting to watch. Fourth. Also a good fight. Midfield, 5th, 6th, 7th. Tough to say. Renault, maybe. The car does not look that great, but again, we cannot make too much from the testing. McLaren, the driver seems happy, so they probably have a good car. AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo. Again, not much to say about them. They could be pretty much anywhere. Haas could be literally anywhere, from last to 4th. We don't know anything about the Haas. And Williams, it will be for them a year of rebuilding, of showing that they came back from from hell, and that this year they can at least be in the fight with anyone who's going to be in the back, but Williams won't be 3 seconds behind. That's what Williams is looking for, at least being in the fight with anyone else who will be at the back of the race pack. Thank you guys, hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think of the last 2 weeks of testing, who is at the top, who's at the bottom. Make sure to check coming soon my prediction video for charity for this 2020 Formula 1 season. Thank you for watching and have a good day, everyone. Thank you.